Welcome to Women Doing Cool Stuff, a web show and conversation for women finding their path, sharing their voice, and cultivating what's next. I'm Grace Kraaijvanger, founder of the Hivery, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Jacque Castro. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. So one of the things that we're trying to do in this show is show the magic that happens at the Hivery. And every day at the Hivery, there are meaningful conversations between women that show the impact and connection that happens among women when we come together. So Jacque and I had one of those conversations last week, and as we were having the conversation, I realized that this is the kind of connection that I would like to show the rest of the world when we talk about what the Hivery is about. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Grace. I'm so excited to be here.
I love it.
And share my soul and share my story, and thanks for asking me.
Thank you. So Jacque is a special part of the Hivery team. She's one of our very first work exchange people. And the idea with work exchange is that we really believe that the Hivery is built not by one person, but by the community. And Jacque has been such an incredible part of building that and creating that sense of connection. So when we had that conversation, we were talking about change that you have experienced and some decisions that you've made. And what I was really honored by is that you've made some of those decisions in the Hivery, and some of the action that you took and some of the impetus and the instinct that you followed was time that you spent at the Hivery. And I just wanted to open it up for you to talk about that a little bit. And tell us about what you're working on.
Well, that's perfect. Well, first of all, the space here and the environment that you have helped create was the major inspiration for so much of what I'm working on right now in my life. So,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So when I'm here in this space, I'm surrounded by women working. I'm surrounded by women talking. I get to hear little snippets of, how I formed my budget, or how I became inspired to start this workshop. And it's almost impossible for me to sit in this space and not be inspired by what I'm hearing and not think, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Right.
So just having come out of grad school, graduated with my master's in international studies at USF in San Francisco, it was the perfect space for me to just sit here and just be with myself. And there's many different reasons why it feels so safe. One of the reasons is because there's so many women here, because it's absolutely gorgeous. But also it just felt like that my creative energy could flow here, that I could talk to a woman in the kitchen, or I could talk to a woman sitting at a table and just say, what do you think about this?
Right.
And so as I was sitting here at the Hivery, I honestly just started getting downloads, just started getting information flooding through me, and busted out my pen and paper, and I was pretty amazed at what was coming out.
So tell us about it. Jacque started an incredible social business in Guatemala. And but what I think is really interesting about the way that you started your business is it has a very human ebb and flow and stop and start, that I think that by telling your story about your social business, you pave the way for other women to know that there's no right path for finding your path.
Absolutely.
Will you tell us about that journey?
Absolutely. So when I first started the idea of wanting to start a nonprofit, it was about, geez Louise, probably 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
And when that was happening, I was in my early 20s and had this dream to start an orphanage in Guatemala.
Wow.
I had traveled to Guatemala, I had traveled to Mexico, and I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. I'm young, I'm inspired, I'm fiery.
Right.
So I go down to Guatemala, I start my nonprofit, I have my board of directors, I've done tons of fundraising, I have the support of my entire community.
Incredible.
And I'm down in Guatemala, and I'm about to buy some land to start this orphanage. After going to Guatemala, once a year to get this started, something didn't happen the right way. Something just felt a little off, so I didn't purchase the land.
Okay.
I came back to the States, and when I came back, unfortunately, I got really ill. Became very ill with Lyme disease, and that allowed me to stop what I was doing. And as I stopped, and as I paused in this huge journey of doing work internationally,
right.
I kept hearing, stop some more. and pause some more and really listen, really think and feel about what you're doing here. And so I did, because I had to. I was sick. And I got so many messages that, number one, I wasn't ready to do what I was doing. Number two, I needed to learn a little bit more about what I was doing.
Okay.
And it just needed a little bit of more time to build on itself. And so that was disheartening. And I went through this shame process of like, do I tell my community about this?
Right.
Do I share this? This isn't something that I want to put on my Facebook page. Like, this isn't something I'm proud of.
Right.
And so years went by, and the Healing Hearts Project, as it was called, the orphanage in Guatemala idea, kind of started going away, and people stopped asking me about it, and I wasn't transparent in that process.
Because you were afraid.
I was afraid. I was
Right.
ashamed that
Right.
what I had done had failed.
Right.
According to what I had wanted to happen.
Right.
And so it felt like a big fat failure.
Well, I'm glad you used that word, because when we had our conversation, the conversation that inspired this conversation, you said something really powerful to me, and it really rocked the way that I think about the word failure. But you had said to me, I want to talk about failure. I want to have a conversation about failure. I want to put failure on the table. So,
I think it's something we don't talk about. I think
Right.
that we're afraid of failing, especially as women. I think that when we admit that we failed, there's just so much that we say that we've done wrong. And what does that say about us? How do
Right.
we still maintain a sense of integrity and accountability within our community when we fail?
I really admire the straightforwardness, and I admire the acceptance that feelings of failure are a part of the process. And we talked that day about our different definitions of failure, and I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your feelings on failure and why it was so important to you to have that conversation.
Absolutely. So when I realized that I wasn't being transparent in that journey, I thought, well, okay, let's try to be a little bit more transparent and see what
Right.
happens. And because of that transparency, because of the conversations I started having with people who had supported me, who had given me money, who had given me time and resources,
Right.
I started to feel more complete in my process. And so
Right.
for me, failure was my dream didn't come true the way I wanted it to come true. And actually acknowledging that and talking about it allowed a new dream to come in.
It's interesting to me because in that conversation with you, and then in this conversation even today, it makes me realize that so much of the good stuff, frankly, so much of the good stuff that I've experienced and things that you evolved into comes from introspection in times of adversity and in times of what we perceive as failure. Now, whether those failures are true failures or they're our own internal perceptions, is neither here nor there. And is often, I think often failure is a perception. But I would love for you to talk about how failure led to an evolution.
Absolutely. So for me, failure has absolutely been the fertilizer for this new dream. So when I felt as if I had failed and I had let my community down, when I started having these conversations with the people in my world, the people who had funded me, the people
Right.
who had given me the resources I needed, the people who had come with me to Guatemala, the people who had taught me Spanish, I felt like I had failed, and I needed to have these conversations about what had actually happened. And miraculously, what happened was not a shameful experience. I didn't feel any judgment coming from these people. I felt like, wow, you care so much about the people who have invested in your dream that
Right.
you care to include us. And so it actually created stronger bonds with those people.
Openness, right.
And it allowed them to feel comfortable asking me, okay, how do you feel about that? And what's next? What's happening now?
I love that. So in terms of what's next, and whether it's the tangibles and the actuals, or it's just the way that you feel in your path, where do you go from here? Where do you go from creating something, stopping, battling the kind of internal and external demons of feelings of failure, and then what?
Well, it's been really exciting, and part of the reason why I feel so blessed to be here as a community member at the Hivery. And I really feel that when I got super real with myself and my community. It allowed me to feel brave enough
Right.
to pull out a piece of paper and to pull out a pencil, not a pen, and
So you can erase.
so I can erase.
It's an experiment.
And really start just writing my thoughts down because they
Right.
were coming.
Right.
And when I let go of that shame and when I let go of that fear that I had messed up so badly that I just should go into hiding, my vision started coming in and I started hearing, okay, Guatemala, yeah, keep going to Guatemala. I started hearing social business.
Right.
And I've never run a business before. I've worked in nonprofits for 12 years. I know nonprofits. Nonprofits are businesses, but in nonprofits, you're working for something, you're working for a cause. And so I thought, oh God, that's kind of scary. Where's this coming from? Kept writing, kept dreaming. And currently, right now, I'm in the process of building a social business in Guatemala, and we're going to be working within a collective. There's many different weaving collectives. The main art form in Guatemala is textiles. And with those textiles, I'm going to be requesting and working with the women to create rugs. And these rugs are just simple, beautiful rugs that actually you don't see a lot of here. In Guatemala, the art is super extravagant and kind of big and bright, and it's not really something that a lot of people probably in the United States would reach for in terms of putting something in their home. So I'm looking to kind of create new designs for these rugs and work with these women to create them. And what's really, really exciting for me is not the business part. The business part's, for me, a means to an end. It's
like
art, it's creation.
Transportation, right.
It's a transportation.
Right.
But where the transportation is leading to is kind of this cycle. So it's these rugs are being woven, they're being sold in the United States, and then that money that is made, the profits, are going back to the community. And so not only will they go back to the women who have woven these incredible rugs, but they also go to another nonprofit that I'm creating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I feel really, really strongly about social business. I feel that we've been given so many blessings here in the United States, so many resources that we have here. So why not create a beautiful pieces of art to sell and have that money go back to support people who really need the support?
I love that.